Okay. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Or good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're listening. Welcome to the 97th episode of Bard Advice, a D&D slash TTRPG slash nerd-centric podcast where I, Chaz Charles Yazik, the DM, the Bard, however you may know me, do my best to answer any questions that you might have regarding any of those areas. So, I hope that everybody's doing well. Happy Friday, or happy Saturday, or happy Sunday even. Before we get started, at the top of the show, we like to remind everybody of the email for the show, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. If you have any questions, concerns, complaints, compliments, criticisms, critiques, etc., please send them there, bardadvice@gmail.com. If you want to get some merch, you can do so over at manshorts.com, and if you want to get some dice, you can go over to krakendice.com. I think there are still some sets left of the limited series dice runs we did with Kraken earlier this year, so go grab some of those if you don't have them. And if you want to contribute to anything I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. We also, at the top of the show, like to thank all of our patrons, members, super chatters. Remind everybody to please like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, rate the podcast, join the Discord. All those good things. So it's much appreciated. And yes, there's a Discord link in the chat. All right. So before we get into the questions that we have tonight, I want to do some Art Corner stuff. So for Art Corner this week, there's just a couple of things that I wanted to recommend to people. So the first of which is this new documentary that we just started recently watching on Netflix, Cold Case, Who Killed JonBenet Ramsey. It's about the JonBenet Ramsey case. Super interesting. I still am not very confident in having an idea of who it might have been, although we haven't finished it yet. It's certainly sad, but if you're interested in that kind of stuff, like true crime stuff, it's super interesting. And speaking of crime, the other thing that I wanted to recommend just for Art Corner, just in the unlikely event that anyone here has not played it, because it has been out for a while, but I also only recently played stuff like Red Dead Redemption 2, so I just wanted to recommend Grand Theft Auto 5 to anybody who hasn't played it. In particular, like with 6 coming out soon, even if you've already played it, I just recently finished replaying it, and it was big fun. Lots of fun. So much fun. So I recommend that. And then also, the last part of Art Corner is just the reminder of the other stream show that I do with my friend Song, Bartificial Intelligence. We do that over on his YouTube channel on Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So it's a show where we build AI music with human input. So it's lots of fun. If you want to come and check that out, that's on Sundays at 9 Eastern. So go check that out. Okay, so that's the Art Corner stuff. Moving on to questions. We've got 7 questions this evening, the last of which will lead us into a chat conversation just in general. So let's get into it. The first question of the evening is from Sarah, and I actually have a list of names this week. Can't believe it. And Sarah asks, "Hello there, DM. I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to get your opinion on the upcoming Daggerheart RPG from Critical Role's Darrington Press. They recently revealed the cover, and the release is set for spring 2025. Do you think there's a chance this takes over the TTRPG space? Thank you for all you do." Well, thank you for the question. Yeah, I certainly think that it's going to take over the space, at least temporarily. It'll certainly be a thing that a lot of people are talking about and playing and voicing their opinions on. I did write out kind of a more thoughtful response. And I will also, for anybody who hasn't seen, post these up. Hold on, it's under the question. These are the covers. So it looks like there's like a regular edition and then like maybe a special edition, and then maybe this is a different special edition. But yeah, I mean, they look cool. It looks cool enough. I think now is the perfect time to do it, as we've said, with all these issues that we've had the last couple of years with Wizards. So yeah, between this and the potential Elon Musk purchase, I suspect the D&D is going to have a, I wouldn't necessarily say rough as much as I would say just kind of like jumbled couple of years, at least in the TTRPG space. Now, I think that they have a lot of potential to make a lot of money in the video game space. I don't know the extent of like what different projects they're working on, but I would suspect that VR is in there somewhere. And I've spoken before about how I think that giving individuals the opportunity to immerse themselves in those kind of games when they're typically not able to because of scheduling or maybe just like distance from people that they could play with, it's harder to play online, etc. So I think that there's a lot of money there. So as a company, they seem to make a lot of money in that space. But I don't know if tabletop, I think tabletop might be going a different direction and has been for a while. Daggerheart looks cool. I imagine that a lot of people who are into Dungeons and Dragons today are into it because of Critical Role. So if the new system is good, and it probably is, and if it's marketed properly, and it probably will be, then yeah, I can definitely see it. I think certainly the people who are already disillusioned with Wizards and Hasbro are kind of chomping at the bit for new games anyway. And the potential players that would want to leave if something happened like Elon buying it, I think that Daggerheart stands to earn a lot of money from those people as well. So I guess that's to say, like, I think that there are people who are already like down to buy it either way, and then there are people who are down to buy it because they want something new to replace D&D, and then there are some people who would, you know, if something were to happen, something big were to happen, like it change ownership or something, then some people might leave for that. So I think as long as they don't get too out of touch with the players and the consumer base, then they'll be fine for their fans and players. I'll probably check it out myself, so may take advantage of the current WotC Hasbro chaos. Yeah, for sure. I mean, why not? It's the perfect time to put something out. Like, hey, are you, I mean, that's essentially the commercial, right? Like, are you annoyed? Has Wizards of the Coast pissed you off more than twice in the last 3 years? Come play this game instead. I'm not sure what Elon would do with D&D. I think he would just put someone else in charge of it. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I think about that, especially depending on what they're doing with video games. Imagine that, like, he did it, he bought it, and then like D&D became like a microtransaction thing that was like somehow linked to crypto. I think that, you know, that would I think it would change everything about the space. But that might happen anyway, right? Like, it's not just about Elon. That's also like the future of what's going on with AI and where Hasbro and WotC need to be in terms of revenue, because they've burned a lot of bridges with just like your standard TTRPG. So, and I think that they also recognize the success of Baldur's Gate 3, and obviously that's credited way more to Larian. But it's just to say that, like, oh, there's a market for this, and it seems that they've just kind of thrown stuff at the wall to see what sticks with the different video games. Because, like I said, I don't know the extent of like how many companies they're working with, but they're making at least a couple, and I imagine they won't all be the same. So maybe they're building some kind of like deck builder card type game, and then maybe they're building like a VR thing, and then like a virtual tabletop situation. Could be any number of things. So you force everyone to get a verified X account if you want to access online content. Yeah, I don't know. He also might buy TikTok, that guy. Well, that's assuming TikTok's even allowed anymore next year. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, good on Critical Role. That's, like I said, I think that a lot of people came into the tabletop space because of them. So it's cool of them to be making, making their own game and seeing how that goes. I still have not ruled out the idea of making at least like some kind of a supplement. VR D&D would be kind of, heck yeah, dude. VR D&D would be way cool if you could do it proper. That'd be way fun. And if you're online with your friends, it's like, there still will be a market for playing an old-fashioned tabletop game at the table with your friends. But Like I said, I think that there's a lot of people who that would play if they could. And so if they're given that option, it's like, well, yeah, I'll just do this. Florida Manthology, yeah, no doubt. That's a thing that should happen. There's already a bunch of games in the car anyway. Oh, D&D coin, yeah. Something like that, who knows? But again, that might happen anyway. It's just... Yeah, and that's a good point too, River. Elon buying Hasbro changes nothing about how you run your games. That's a thing too, I think, that's important to remember, and we've talked about that on this show several times before. It's just like, you know, if you don't like 5e, don't play it. Like 3.5 exists. And as it's been quoted as ad nauseum by Mr. Gygax himself, like, we must never let the dungeon master know that they don't need the rules. So, like, when it comes to, like, homebrew and stuff, you can make your game whatever it is. Nothing's been, like, your agency has not been removed from you making your game however you want it to be. But, you know, it just might be that some of the more mass-produced stuff is not as great. But that's true of everything, right? It's about to get way weird when these movie studios start pushing out AI shows and movies. That's going to be crazy. To help train AI. Oh, that's a really good point, actually. I wonder if Elon's the DM and we're all just players. Yeah, well, I mean, depending on who you ask. Loved you guys chasing ghosts. Oh, yeah, Phasmophobia. Yeah, there's a second video of that on the channel now. Those have been humbling, those experiences. Not just both, like, not for also, like, certainly from, like, a scary perspective, but also just from a, like, we don't really know what's going on perspective. But it's fun. We're figuring it out. We're getting better. We'll do better. We'll get better. I do want to stop dropping satisfactory stuff soon, though. All right, I got to keep moving. We're lingering. Got to keep moving. Got more questions. Thank you for the question, Sarah. Hope that there's an answer in there for you. The next question is from Bradley. And Bradley asks, hey, Bard, so this is my first time asking a question. I hope you get a chance to answer it before the podcast is over. Gotcha. My group and I just started a new campaign, and for the first time I'm playing a character with int as my dump stat. I usually play wizards. In addition to having a 7 intelligence, this new character also has a very low charisma. My question is, how can I roleplay this PC without being annoying or disruptive to the game? I appreciate any advice, and thanks for the show. Thank you for the question, Bradley. So let's answer this. Chat, feel free to voice your opinions as to how to handle a low int / low cha character, but I wrote something up for it. I think that there are tons of ways to do this without being a nuisance. Although, to be fair, I might not be the best person to answer this question because I tend to make annoying characters, or at least characters with annoying traits. However, not having a good intelligence or charisma does not exclude you from good RP. I think a great example of this is a character like Ricky from Trailer Park Boys, or even my character in the Drunk Before Noon sketches. Like, it's very possible to be entertaining and fun without being necessarily smart or charismatic. So you could do a thing with like malaprops or just like mispronouncing words. My biggest advice would be to decide on a character trait or two and then lean into those things. Even if it's not that interesting, it's something that you can hang your hat on to bring personality to your character without necessarily being clever. So maybe something like your character has OCD. Or maybe your lack of intelligence makes you like super optimistic and lighthearted. So even without being smart or charismatic, you can bring like a peace and a happiness to the party. You could just be like a super nice person, which goes a long way, right? You don't have to be smart to be nice. You don't have to be charismatic to be nice. So that's an interesting personality trait. I think it also depends on the party too. So I did think about the rest of the party and what their characters bring to the group. Try to bring something different or something that's missing. Maybe you can be someone who is street smart based on your background or something. So those are all kind of things I think you could work out with the DM as to having an explanation for what your character is good at. Because, you know, intelligence usually comes into play what? When you're doing like knowledge checks, obviously, and then magic stuff, arcana. So there's still wisdom. Wisdom is still a thing. You can lean into that. You've got to have more wisdom than either of those. I would hate to have both Lo In and Cha. If I can't be smart, I'd at least like to be likable. Yeah, but you can be likable without being charismatic, I think. Have very bad grammar and use big words wrong. Make up false conspiracy concepts about your game world and have your character promote them. Kind and gullible. Yeah, there you go. That's fun. And hey, being gullible opens opportunity for the party to kind of have fun with that and maybe even use it to their advantage, right? Had a barbarian with a 6 int. Oh, I've been there so many times. I chose to be dumb sparingly, but he was just nice and would defend anyone in the party, and I would intentionally or accidentally misspeak. I would lean in when called. Yeah, it's so I definitely think that there are ways that you can do it without necessarily being like annoying. When the DM called out, like when the DM clarified cask versus casket. You can also be confidently but very obviously wrong about things very often. That's my favorite thing. And that's a thing that both of the characters I mentioned, my Drunk Before Noon character and Ricky from Trailer Park Boys, do all the time. It's this confident ignorance. It's being wrong with your chest. That's funny. I think it's more funny than annoying. I think as long as you're not like doing it in the middle of combat or like actively trying to do, because that's the trouble with some of the characters I play, like Studebaker Peppercorn. He's prone to just wander off in the middle of combat. So that's not, I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of annoying. So you do kind of toe the line there. I think, if you give yourself some sort of a personality trait that for one makes you stand out among the party, but then for two doesn't inherently alienate, it's just kind of like maybe a harmless tick. That kind of stuff's really funny. Like Augustus Montgomery introducing himself all the time. That's like a thing that's like not really that doesn't hurt the party. It's hard when you have to keep reminding and asking yourself, how dumb am I again? Yeah, that's true. Make dodge and throw my TNT into the river. Charisma's interesting. Beauty's only skin deep. Ugly goes all the way to the bone. I feel that. Picturing Ron Swanson, a gruff dad that quotes older and obviously wrong information. My cousin played a confident but dumb warrior, and that was great. Yeah, confident and dumb is really funny. That's a great combo. A lot of great characters like that. You may be ugly, but nice boost charisma. The character Bulk from Super Ted, the Canadian cartoon series. My last Oathbreaker Paladin had int as a dump stat. He knew what he knew, and anything he didn't know, he'd act like he did. He was great with combat tactics, but bad with emotional stuff, feelings. Yeah, and isn't there like a name for that phenomenon where it's like, because I would imagine that if you were a certain intelligence, you wouldn't be aware that you were of a certain intelligence. You know what I mean? I feel like either direction. So there seems to be kind of a theme in that. That might be the move, is to just lean into your character is so dumb that they don't know that they're dumb. And so as a result, they're just confidently wrong about stuff all the time. And that's a thing that is not really a nuisance. That just adds RP to what's going on with the game. Because they can always just chalk it up to you being the dumb barbarian or whatever it is. Do shenanigans. Dunning-Kruger effect. Too dumb to know. Oh, okay. I guess that is what it is, kind of. Yeah. It's just like confidently wrong. EQ instead of IQ. Yeah. And that's RP stuff. Like I said, I think I certainly as a DM would allow that kind of stuff to be ironed out with your background. If your character grew up on the streets, let's say, just because you're not necessarily charismatic, or not like intelligent, that doesn't mean that you don't know about stuff that's going on. And that kind of stuff, I think, can be a really cool contribution to the party. Just be sure to make it very obvious that you're wrong. Aim for the reaction that isn't how any of this works. Yeah, for sure. It'll be real fun. Okay, so I think we got the answer for that one done. The next question of the evening is from James. And James asks, "Hey Chaz, first off, love the pod, and I'm sad to see it's ending, but I understand. Looking forward to anything else you do. By now, I'm sure you heard the news surrounding the fate of the United Healthcare CEO. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it will happen more? Thanks." Wow, thank you for the question, James. Yeah, it's that's a real weird thing that's happened. So, I wrote a thing about it. People in chat, feel free to speak with your opinions about it. But here it is. So before I say anything, I wanted to be clear. I am not someone who is a proponent of violence of any kind. I don't condone blasting people on the street. That's not okay. However, I'm not exactly losing sleep about it. I think that person was in whole or in part responsible for probably the deaths of thousands of people. I suspect that the perpetrator was someone who was directly affected by, I don't know, maybe this weird AI policy that led to thousands of patients not being covered for expenses that should have been covered. I've never been somebody who is a fan of like the uber wealthy. I'm always on the side of like the working common person. And, I think that this act is a snapshot of a culture wherein not all, but likely the majority, seemingly so, people value money over human life. It's my understanding that the meeting he was on the way to just went on without him, which is troubling. I think that companies, I saw a headline about companies like CVS have removed the photos of their CEO and executives from their websites, which I think is a little odd. I mean, you could consider it like a standard precaution, but then that also presupposes that those executives like have maybe also participated in behavior that might lead to their untimely demise. This is also representative, I think, of a debate that's been going on for a long time throughout human history, which is money versus human life. Humanity seems to be kind of split on it. I think that, there are some that think money and property and those things are the most important. And I think in America, that is the case. And then I think there are other people who believe that no life is worth any amount of money. But then again, life insurance policies and net worth and stuff exist. So at the end of the day, I feel badly for the guy's family. It's not my place to say whether or not people should live or die. That's kind of stuff's left up to juries. And I hope I'm never on a jury because I don't trust my own memory. But the other thing is you can buy juries and judges. Most people can be bought, which is also another problem. As to whether or not it'll happen more, I don't know. Probably. I'll tell you that anybody that was considering doing something like that before is certainly more emboldened to do it now. So I think that it's just kind of split. Some people support billionaires and they're being able to do whatever they want to do, and some don't. I don't. So good luck, CEOs, I guess. I mean, I really don't know. It's also a thing that I can't like really speak to in terms of relatability because, the other thing that I keep thinking of is like, well, how many other people died that day? Like how many other people died violently that day? But we certainly don't talk about that on a global scale or on a national scale. But we do with this guy because he's a rich guy. I mean, I guess he was in charge of United Healthcare, but I don't know. I don't like any of it. Nothing. I'm not necessarily jumping for joy about any of it. But all right, I've been kind of rambling for a minute. Let me see what chat's saying. Can't say that I hope it'll happen more, but there are some obituaries I would read with great pleasure. Don't want to advocate for vigilante justice, but given what you know about UHC, they had a temp CEO almost immediately. Corpos or soulless. Yeah, I heard that somebody posted a thing that they had posted the application on Indeed, and there were already like 100 applicants that hadn't been up for like an hour. And I was like, ugh. In my opinion, I don't relish death, but I do believe karma finds a way. At some point, something has to give. Hopefully, it's a wake-up call for the companies. Yeah, and people could argue that it has been, right? Because it seems that there was, I don't know if it was just Blue Cross Blue Shield or if it was like a specific subsidiary of Blue Cross Blue Shield, but they were doing this thing where they were going to like roll back their anesthesia coverage, which sounds insane because it is. The idea that like, it's like, hey man, people are different. People, and also like not just the people that are under anesthesia, but the surgeons performing whatever the surgery is. Like, you don't know, complications could extend it. So they've apparently reversed that decision. So some silver lining there, I suppose. The outcome will be more protection for the rich. Yeah, maybe. And I think security is going to be one of the fastest growing sectors in the world in general. Not just digitally, but also physically, right? Like, especially with this. Oh, dude, there are probably security companies' stock has probably gone through the roof in the last couple of days, like private security companies. I can understand people not feeling bad about it, or some even finding it just. Wish people would just take it easy with the jokes and the like so soon. Yeah, but I mean, people do that all the time, right? Anyway, you can't, disagree about it being vengeance based upon an affected individual. Oh, you think so? I don't know. I mean, it seems like it would be random for it to just be random, right? Wouldn't it more likely be somebody that was immediately affected? I doubt it will happen more, at least in the next few years, just because all those above a certain level have upped their security. Highly recommended people to listen to Trevor Moore's Time for Guillotines for anyone less than saddened about this. Private security is going to kick up, no doubt. We're about to see corporations become militarized. Oh, 1,000%. Their claim for my condolences has been denied, but good news, crying me a river is not a pre-existing condition. You don't make statements using silencers. Yeah, but he wrote words on the bullets. Right? That's a pretty big message. Yeah. Think of all the extra alphabet agencies that were created after 9/11. More security, more surveillance state. Yeah, wow, more security in general, I think. And we're in Rich City now. We're in Richville. So, it is odd, I'd say, that like overall to see so many people seemingly not having a problem with it, but then also there are so many people that support other billionaires. I don't know. For me, they're all billionaires. You know what I mean? I think the out of touch thing, the gap there has to do with money and nothing else. I think that's always been the case. But I don't want to get too existential. I think I answered the question. I don't know if it'll happen more. Certainly not if they're upping their security. But people certainly might feel more emboldened to do stuff like that, especially if they were already thinking about it. So, all right, moving on. Thank you for the question, James. We have 4 more questions, and then we'll do a little chat. The next question of the evening, if you were a betting type, you might say is from Chris, and you'd be right. And Chris asks, what are you going to do with the free time you have once the podcast is concluded? Assuming we can agree on a game, would you ever want to join a Discord-only server? Thank you for the question, Chris. I wrote a thoughtful answer to this. This is a great question that I haven't fully considered. A lot of it is going to depend on my work schedule. So I hope to work at least 40 hours a week, but I have no idea what that's going to look like as far as days, times, etc. And so also won't know what times I have off. In my free time in general, though, I think I'm going to work on a lot more music. I've actually considered taking some singing lessons. Now, again, this is all predicated on the fact that, like, I get a job and things get back to normal for me as far as income. But my buddy Song, who I think is in here, or was a minute ago, Song has recently started taking piano lessons. And since I've had kind of a bit of a bug for making more acoustic music again, I I could probably stand to have some lessons on how to sing, like really, because I can carry a tune. I have pitch, but I'm not a trained singer, and so I could probably benefit from some technique stuff. And I would feel a lot better, I think, about doing those acoustic songs and like re-recording and re-releasing those, even with just like a couple of singing lessons, just maybe to help, like I said, help with like technique and the physical process of it and such. Um, I think also writing more in general. So I was talking to Pirate recently about maybe using the bardadvice Discord as a way to like plan out or maybe even build out the Florida Manthology supplement. I don't know if anybody would be interested in that, but we could talk about it in Discord, set up a channel or whatever. But, I also have like a series that I've been working on writing, like trying to outline, and a novel and a comic and all kinds of stuff. So, like, I'm always writing. I think I'll always write no matter what because I was a writer first before everything else. So I think that all roads tend to lead back to that. And then also like gaming more, possibly streaming. And I know that I'm like the king of saying that and never doing it. And I don't know what that's about, honestly. Maybe I will give it a shot. I don't know. But again, most of it depends on my job and like what the hours are and what my availability is because I suspect that will change. I have had probably more time to myself in the last several years than I ever had in terms of my schedule. So it will probably be an adjustment getting back to that rigid 40-hour a week. I probably work 40, 50 hours a week on the channel and stuff, and between that and the vape store, but it's just all kind of broken up. Whereas, you get like a 9 to 5 job, it's more of like 8-hour block out of your day. So, Christmas album. Yeah, I was supposed to do that, and it occurs to me that I'm not going to have time to do it, so I'm going to just have to do it next year. But I do want to do the D&D song Christmas album. Want to take voice training and coaching yourself. Yeah, I feel like that's a thing that like anybody could benefit from. So, why don't I start my own IT company? Well, I don't know about that, dude. I don't know enough about it. I'd have to like get a little squad. Bard Host Coast to Coast IT Services. Space Coast Wizards of the Host IT company. Yeah, I like that. Oh, and I have been writing, I know a lot of people are like, well, uppity about like AI music and stuff, but I've been using Suno a lot. I'm actually building out an album called A Plus Music, and it's all just computer music. And I've got 27 tracks done, but I want there to be 42. So I've got like 15 more to write, but I'll probably have that done in the next week or, next couple of weeks. Maybe that'll be out like probably around New Year's. I'll shoot for that. It's okay to just slow down and have some me time. Don't burn yourself out trying to do everything. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And, part of it is because it's in my nature to always want to be doing something. And part of it is that I do enjoy it. I feel like, I don't know. It's this quest for making the next thing. It's kind of like an obsession. Lane change. Why 42? Because, yes, thank you, James. Because 42 is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. So that's why 42 on the computer track. And then, yeah, I'm making the Traffic Jams is a ska album that I'm making that's all about traffic. And I'm also making another Suno album called Music for the End of the World. So, which is just kind of like uppity pop, like apocalyptic. That's like, it's apocalypse core. So that's been fun. 54. No, I couldn't possibly. That's way too many. 42 as it is probably going to be close to 2 hours, if not more. I don't know what the runtime is currently, but I'm just gonna post it on YouTube like I have the other ones, because again, I'm not yet comfortable, at least until the gavel comes down, on the Suno case, directly profiting from the music. I don't want it to be a situation where I've released stuff through my distributor and then they come back later and say, oh, this is actually all in violation of copyright law and you owe us money now. Not doing that. So, but the good news is that if the judge rules in favor of Suno, which I'm hoping is the case, and because I personally believe that it's far too transformative to call it plagiaristic, then I'll put all of that stuff on Spotify. I'll put all my music, all that music on my distributor. 32 songs for 33 NFL teams. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm down with that. I heard some of the Suno music you made a few minutes ago. Played around with Suno a bit. Not much yet, but it's interesting. It is. And honestly, in my experience with people using it, the more you use it yourself, the more benefit from it you'll see. Because you can really get in there. Even if you're somebody that's never really considered themselves to be like a lyricist, I think everybody is like has rhythm and music inside of them. And so, you know, it's just a form of poetry, really. So it's just like writing out your ideas and stuff. And I think in my experience, when people are unsure about it and then they use it more themselves to make songs themselves that they care about, then it's like, then it clicks for people. They're like, oh yeah, I get it. This is great. So recently learned that if you don't have Suno Premium, they own whatever you make. Yeah. And that's the reason that I got a subscription in the first place. It's like, yeah, partly you get more credits, but also like if you're on a paid plan, then you own all the commercial rights to anything that you produce on there. At least from like a distributor standpoint, they probably still own. I don't know how it works. We're going to have to see how stuff works out with the, you know, maybe it'll end up being some sort of a settlement where neither side really wins, but there are just some like changes about the law and how that works. I don't know. I had one set of lyrics I wrote years ago, no music, used Suno to bring it to life. I'm playing with Suno ever since. Yeah, no doubt. A lot. I think that's common with people. I mean, that's what it was with me. I didn't really get what was good, because like Song was using it a little before me. I think Song was using it like a month or maybe a couple of weeks before me. And I was like, oh yeah, kind of. And I didn't really start getting into it. And then I started using it myself and was like, oh, this is awesome. Like I totally get this. And I'm going to use it to do a whole bunch of stuff. So, wish I knew that before I put your, oh, yeah, well, you know, the rhythm is going to get you. Most definitely. All right. So, we got an answer in there for you, Chris. Those are the things that I'm thinking about doing, really, just music and writing. That's what I'll be doing in my newfound free time, depending on what that looks like. What with hopefully getting a new job. Alrighty, so let's keep going. We got 3 more. The next question of the evening is from Paul. And Paul asks, hi, Bard. My party and I got into a bit of a spirited debate at our last session, and since you've done Would You Rather questions before, I thought you might act as the deciding vote. Oh, no, I don't like doing that. So, would you rather always succeed on stealth checks or persuasion checks? Thank you for the question, Paul. This was a no-brainer for me. I'm going to go with persuasion, because here's the thing. Even if you get caught sneaking around, you can just talk your way out of it with persuasion. So I think persuasion is too powerful when used in the right context. It's one of the reasons that I want to run a glamour bard in Baldur's Gate 3. That idea of just like manipulation and control is pretty neat. That's cool stuff. Stealth, I think, is only helpful if you're trying to sneak around or like remain undetected. But it's like worst case scenario, you get caught. If you've got good persuasion, you can just talk your way out of it. You could also persuade people to do all kinds of stuff, not just stay out of trouble. So you could get food and lodging and items for free or reduced prices. You could even get people to stop fighting you actively. Although, I guess with stealth, if you're going to succeed on every attempt, you could just hide from someone instantaneously. I'm still going with persuasion. I think it has way more utility. That's just, and it seems to be, a lot of people seem to say that in persuasion. We do have one for stealth, But actually, it looks like 2 for stealth. But most people seem to say persuasion. Persuasion all the way. Stealth, always succeed on persuasion checks. Persuasion's the correct answer. 100% gift to gab. Persuasion, except in very specific circumstances. I could persuade you that I was stealthy. Why do I need stealth when you give me what I want to steal? Fail a stealth into an auto success persuasion. Yeah. It's always success. No roll needed. Yeah, that is insane. That's busted as all heck. It's the Jedi mind trick. This isn't the party you're looking for. Yeah, no doubt. That's vampire stuff, dude. They're just like, hey, you're not allowed to be there. And it's like, yeah, I am. And they're like, oh, you're right. Sorry to bother you. And then they just move on. I mean, that's the ultimate infiltration. I would rather be able to do that than, like, successfully slink through the shadows, you know? That's like, no magic at will mind control. Yes, please. Yeah, no doubt. Persuasion is, it's an important one. It's totally vampire stuff. Stealth, way too easy for stealth to fail and blow the whole thing. Too many fail points. That's a good point. Because, I mean, I guess that I'm trying to think of how I would counter it as a DM if I knew someone had auto successes on persuasion. Is that, oh, you could probably do it. You could, well, I guess you could probably roadblock it pretty easily, like if they were caught by like if the guard didn't speak their language, then it wouldn't necessarily matter if you persuaded on succeeded on a persuasion check, because they wouldn't know what you said. You know? You're not allowed to be here. Be here. I own this building and employee you and you're fired. Then you end up like the guy in the purple suit from Jessica Jones. Yeah, the guy in the purple. David Tennant. That was so cool. Are you the owner of the bar? Yes. No, I think I'm the owner. Oh, right, you are. Yeah, no doubt. It's like, who owns this place? It's like, I do. And they're like, oh. Yeah, you're right. That is wild. I guess it also depends to an extent on the character, right? Because if you were running a rogue, it'd probably be better to have auto success. Well, no, even then, because like if you were a rogue, you would have good stealth. So, worst case, you get detected, you can auto succeed on persuasion. Yeah. I don't know if I could think of a scenario, unless it was like very infiltration specific, but even then. If persuasion always works, otherwise it would be bothersome to deal with. Easiest way to roadblock would just be not letting them roll for it. Can't succeed if you can't roll. My boss is a narcissist, can't be persuaded. Yeah, and that's a thing too, right? Like it wouldn't necessarily be, it could be like a special effect. You know, that was an interesting thing that happened to us in the Phasmophobia game. Because, you know, they have different ghosts in there. And one of the ghosts that we encountered was a mimic. And I died on that run really early on. And you're supposed to have like sort of a grace period at the beginning. But what I found out from someone in the comments was that what was happening is that the mimic was mimicking the demon's ability to hunt at will. And so that little grace period at the beginning doesn't really mean anything when you've got that particular scenario going. So it does, I guess, depend on the specific scenario. Oh, but what I was going to say is, like, you could just treat that like a legendary action if you wanted to, depending on who it was. If it was just like a regular baddie, but like certainly if it was the BBG, if you've got somebody that like auto succeeds persuasion, it's just like, oh, well, actually, this guy, he has a special ability. He can't be persuaded. He doesn't trust anyone. You know, something happened in his youth, and now he doesn't believe anything that anybody says. So can't do anything about that. Persuade you that you don't see me. Would you kindly pass me your everything? Yeah, for sure. Oh, all right. So we got an answer in there. That was fun. Thank you for the question, Paul. Definitely persuasion. So I'm hoping that that settles the debate. I'm just trying to think of like how you'd be split among it. But I mean, I guess there were a couple of stealths in here. So, all right, next question. Before we get into the last one for chat. The next question of the evening is from John. Oh, and this is about football. This is sad stuff. But we can do that. We'll do John's question, and then we'll have a question from Pirate to lead us into chat. But this one is from John. And John asks, okay, Chaz, it's football question time. After that unfortunate hit last game, Trevor Lawrence has been placed on IR for the foreseeable future. Do you think there will be a coaching change before the season ends, or will they just finish the season and start over next year? Thank you and have a great week. Well, thank you, John. Although I'm never really too thrilled to speak about the Jaguars, I certainly will. I mean, they are my home team after all. Sigh. Yes. So for anyone who didn't know, Trevor was hit pretty hard last weekend by Texans linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair. This resulted in Trevor suffering a concussion, leaving the game, and subsequently being placed on a IR, injured reserve. I don't know what the future is. I think firing the coaches at this point in the season is kind of a waste. You might as well just pull this broken wagon over the finish line and then fire everybody in January. The good news for us is that we'll be at the top of the draft, so we stand a chance at getting, a good talent. It'd be nice to get somebody like Travis Hunter. But Trevor has his money and his contract, so I think at this point we don't really have a choice but to let him rest and rehab and recover. Let Mac Jones play, see if he can either, maybe get himself a job somewhere else, or I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't know what his contract is. But it definitely feels like, so I said, but Trevor has his money, so I think we let him rest and rehab, recover, figure out a game plan for next year. But it's not fun. It definitely feels like we might be cursed. I wrote a song about this recently. We're just not good. I think with a new coaching staff, we might be able to put something together, at least to compete, get to the playoffs. I think Trevor's decent. I still think he's Blake Bortles part 2, but Blake Bortles did lead us to an AFC title game. I think if you have the talent elsewhere, you can do that. And we have it in spurts. I like Trayvon and Josh Allen. I've always liked Devin Lloyd and Tyson Campbell, Andre Sisco. I think Travis is a solid running back, but I think he's more of like a utility guy. I think he's good for special plays, particularly like little screens, wheel routes. I think Tank Bigsby is much more of a reliable, like ground pound, clock chewing running back. So we'll see. We can't be any worse than we've been this year. I mean, I know technically we can, but I don't think that we can be worse. So let's hope Trevor stays healthy, and we can just make some moves next season. Get somebody high in the draft. So, what would a D&D campaign between two bards be like? Well, that depends on what kind of bards they are, and also what they would be doing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with the Jaguars. I don't know if the answer is, and it's hard to. All of our teams in Florida have not been doing fantastic. But what are the Bucks? Are the Bucks still have a chance to win their division, don't they? Where are they? Tell me about the Buccaneers. Yeah, they're 6-6. So you technically could still win the division. John Walford. I don't know. Did we? Maybe. Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Everything seems to be kind of like chaotic mess over the Jaguars, so. Competing bards like Zoolander or Blades of Glory, that could be cool. Jay-Z and Nas. Or like Abbott and Costello. Maybe they're like a comedy duo. Tied with Atlanta, yeah. So, yeah, there's a chance there, I think, if you get some games won. No Blades of Glory was about athletes, but as if they were not also bards. That's a good point. Yeah, it could also just be a thing where it's just like a Step Brothers thing. Those are some characters that are like confidently wrong. He's a good backup Super Bowl winning third string. The Duval Blues. Yeah, most definitely. You can just refer to that. That's a... I'm going to probably make that. I should make that song public. I'll probably do that and then just like drop it in the music section of the... It's always a good time to listen to Illmatic. Or the new Kendrick. That's been real good too. Spinal Tap playing football. Well, that's a different kind of Spinal Tap, dude. Okay. All right. So that answers that. Thank you for the question, John. We are moving on to our last question of the evening, which is from Pirate. I did write a short answer to it, but I think most of it is going to just be discussed in chat. So we'll get into that now. So Pirate asks... Hey Chaz, virtuoso of verse, the troubadour of triumph, and the lyricist of legends, too kind. As their last question of the evening, could we discuss the future of Bard Advice? Sincerely, your favorite rogue thief, pirate archaeologist. All right. Well, thank you for the question, Pirate. And we've been talking about this week, just in general, on the Discord. So, indeed, Pirate and I have spoken about this, and he's told me that he has a real interest in carrying on the stream in my place, perhaps changing its name to Rogue Advice. This would allow the community to stay together on Friday nights. Maybe think of it as like, maybe think of it as a new DM. So the Bard Advice campaign is coming to an end, and the Rogue Advice campaign is waiting in the shadows. As to what that looks like, I feel like you all should make it your own and just kind of keep the same chill, nerdy vibe. Like, I'm always happy to help promote that when I can, since I won't be doing this. And who knows, my hiatus or departure from Bard Advice might not be permanent. Maybe it'll be a thing where it returns in the future. But for the interim, I think it's a cool idea for Pirate or anybody that wants to kind of keep that alive with doing their own stream, and just so people still have kind of a place to go to. When Rogue Advice is dead, I'll animate dead and then turn into Necromancer Advice. Yeah, dude. And then before you know it, we'll do all the classes for D&D, and until we're down to Artificer Advice. Throw up some polls in the Discord regarding this. Stay tuned in a couple hours. Okay, nice. Yeah, and so I think that it should be something that's just kind of like decided and built within the community on the Discord, and there's certainly time for that. I've got 3 more episodes before the end, at least, of Bard Advice as it is now. So I think there's definitely some time to plan that stuff and figure it out. Weekly to monthly. Not sure. But yeah, that's... So what do we think about that? Feel free to voice your opinions on it. Also, we're technically in chat, so feel free to talk about whatever, really, at this point. Do good things of the week. I guess my good thing of the week is we put up the Christmas tree this week. That was fun. Wouldn't want your personal style to mess with the Manshort's brand. I don't know about that, dude. Well, I don't know if we're very family-friendly ourselves. Be up for suggestions as to what content and format you all would like to see. And add in an archaeology corner. Oh, heck yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, so, I mean, people feel free to voice their thoughts on that and how they'd like to contribute to it, or what that's going to look like. Talk about that in the Discord. Good thing of the week you're going to New Orleans to start your vacation. That's cool. Have you ever been? I think I've only been to New Orleans once. Good thing of the week, Bucks. The Raiders at home. Don't speak too soon, Pirate. Not for everyone. Pfft, I'm not for everyone, dude. What do you mean? Could you let Rogue Advice for 3 out of 4 weeks and do one of them a la Jon Stewart? Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know. Lost another 30 pounds. Whoa, dude. Congrats. That's a big deal. Good for you, man. I could certainly stand to lose some weight. D&D Debates as a roundtable podcast would be interesting. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. What's interesting, too, is that I feel like when it comes to creating content, it's kind of the same problem as D&D, and maybe thus the overlap in my own personal experience as an artist, right? Because, like, you can't do everything yourself as an artist, and so you try your best to collab with other people, but ultimately you run into the same issues that you run into when you're doing D&D, because people have schedules, so you've got to figure out a time that works. And it's just, there's a lot of organization that needs to be done before you actually do it. And then, so, I don't know. I've been fortunate enough to, have done some good musical collaboration stuff with Song. We're always working on stuff. But it's harder, I think, to collaborate on bigger projects that require lots of other stuff going on. Pirate, would digging into my original edition Tan D&D books count as archaeology? Yo, dude, indeed. That'd be mad cool. That is wild, River. Good for you. That's great. I think Rogue Advice sounds cool. Definitely a way to keep and hopefully grow the community while still giving you a chance to do what you need to do. And possibly return sometimes. Yeah, most definitely. So I think that's a good plan. Rogue Advice or Rogue Bard Advice that's gone rogue, will be on a new and separate channel. Don't have access to the Man Shorts channels. Yeah, so that'll be on Pirate's channel. But we can push everybody that direction and, do it as a redirection. And then, who knows, maybe if I do the monthly thing or even like once every 2 months or something, do a stream on this channel. And then just kind of use that as a promotional tool to send people to the other weekly episodes of Rogue Advice. I don't know. Adding help brainstorm sessions for those that need it. Oh, that could be cool. Cut out as much sugar and carbs as possible. Yeah, dude. Sugar's my problem. 4-day on, 1-day off schedule. Man, I need to be doing that stuff. Good for you. What else is going on? Anybody else have good stuff of the week? That's a hard one to top. I think everybody feels like they could probably stand to lose 30 pounds. Sumo squat. Yeah, that sounds cool. Oh, man. And you know what I should have recommended? And maybe I'll do it officially next week in next week's Art Corner. But I should have recommended Dan if nobody's watching that anime. It's a good one. It's real good. Might be up for some awards this year, honestly. Wide horse stance squats. Yeah, that sounds like a lot. You saved a bunch of money by switching to Geico. Well, that's awesome. I've heard a 15-minute phone call can save you 15% or more on car insurance. That's just what I've heard, though. That's just like the scuttlebutt among, like, the Gecko water coolers, If I lost 30 pounds, my blood pressure would love me. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been a weird week too in Florida. It's been like super cold. Like it's been a long time, I think, since it's been this cold in Florida, like the first week of December. So that's been weird and interesting. And then I can't believe we're already in December. We're already like talking about and thinking about Christmas. That is just insane to me. It's like, that's the thing too. I think the older you get, the quicker it goes by. Christmas shows. Oh, yeah, Christmas shows. My wife and I have been watching, all the fun stuff to watch at Christmas. There's a Christmas Carol stuff. We were watching Muppet Christmas Carol earlier. Charlie Brown's Got a Christmas. Most cartoons have Christmas, so those are always fun. I'm kind of tempted to go and watch like the different Office Christmases because I love that show so much. So I'm going to post updates on the Discord, planning on a test weekend for those interested before going live. It's probably going to go live beginning of the year. Nice. So yes, link up with Pirate on Discord for that, for sure. You might want to make another channel for it if you haven't already, Pirate. Found a new film festival, Bits, Blood in the Snow. Wow, that's cool. My week's been absolutely boring. Same stuff, different day. Work, gym, home is my routine. Well, hey, that's a good routine. Good thing of the week, just wrapped the last Christmas gift, so officially done with this holiday. Wow, that's actually really smart of you. Maybe we should do that. I mean, most people that I know are broke these days, so probably not going to be doing too much when it comes to gifts and stuff, but probably a couple of little things I want to give people. You're in Australia, and often you are looking after your son on the weekend when there's live from me. Support Rogue Advice in their venture. Yeah, no doubt. I think it's a really cool idea. Jingle All the Way. Oh, dude, yeah. And like Nightmare on Elm Street. Well, Nightmare Before Christmas. That's a different movie, dude. Nightmare on Elm Street's a good one for Halloween. For Christmas, you're going to want to watch Nightmare Before Christmas. And there's also a new Jack Black movie where he's Satan, which seems insane to me, but it's probably funny. Down to Nine's pretty good, though. All the weird D-name shows are good. Yeah, I guess that's true. Die Hard, yeah, that's a must. I usually like doing that on like Christmas Eve or like Christmas Eve. Yeah, River gets it. I do love Die Hard. There's something nostalgic about it, just like all the different characters. And by the way, if nobody has seen it, I think it was on the show called The Movies That Made Us. But there's a documentary episode about the making of Die Hard, and it's fascinating because like they were writing it as they were producing it. They were like adding pages like in between shoots. So that's pretty cool. A Nightmare Before Christmas on Elm Street. Yeah, dude. Is your house on fire, Clark? Oh yeah, Christmas Vacation. That's always one you gotta watch. Heck, maybe we'll do... Somebody send me a question about Christmas movies. We'll make a whole segment next week. We'll talk about Christmas movies. Home Alone, Christmas Vacation, The Grinch. Oh, yeah, we watched The Grinch, the cartoon, the OG one, the other day. And it occurred to me that it is kind of a nice message, I guess, at the end, which is that, you know, the Who's enjoyed Christmas even without all the stuff. So, you know, maybe for those of us who aren't going to be doing too much for Christmas this year, just try to remember that. That's, you know, the reason for the season is family and friends and love and joy. So, try and do your best to not be totally bah humbug. All right, save it. Save the Christmas movies. We got to get out of here. We're winding down. This is the end. So, we're always here at the end so fast. Can't believe it. All right, so before we get out of here, the things we like to do are, of course, remind everybody again of the email address, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. Please send all your questions there. If you want to get some merch, do so over at manshorts.com or get some dice over at krakendice.com. If you'd like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. We will be back next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Man Shorts YouTube channel. The audio for this podcast, as always, will be made available tomorrow at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Standard Time. I hope that everybody has a fantastic weekend and an even better week, and we will see you next time.